What is the most ridiculously strict rule a parent you know has had for their child? My sister and I weren't allowed to murder pedestrians. My childhood friend wasn't allowed to play with her own toys. Her room was spotless and the shelves were full of new toys, yet she played with the crappy, old ones. When I asked, she said mom doesn't let me play with those because they're new. I still don't get it. That is how villains are born. My favorites from my own adolescence. 1. No two articles of black clothing may be worn in the same outfit. This would constitute being goth. 2. Black or red underwear or bras are expressly forbidden. Only girls who expect to show them off wear black or red underwear. 3. No red nail polish. The Queen of England says only W wear red nail polish. 4. No black nail polish. Also considered goth. 5. No blue nail polish. If I were to get into a car accident, the paramedics might think I was dead because my fingernails were blue. And if a paramedic saw you walking around with blue nail polish, he might try and cut your head off assuming that you were a zombie. Paramedics aren't trained to tell the difference between blue nail polish and a dead hand. Not being able to talk to the opposite gender after the girl's parent found out about the girl having a BF. Can't have friends over when parents aren't there. He is 22. One time we got caught at his house when his parents were not there and his mom continued on to call 5 22-year-old guys' parents to tell them what their sons had been up to. To this day my parents say it was the hardest they have ever laughed from a phone call. My friend couldn't watch The Fairly Odd Parents until the age of 15 because the parents thought Vicky the babysitter was too mean. They were 15, near 16, be in bed by 7:30 p.m. My neighbors across the street did this, but it was always when the sun went down. That meant 9 in the summer and 4:30 in the winter. Strange. I know someone who at 19 was not allowed to drive on the highway. She was also not allowed to drive at night, in the rain, or anything but perfect weather. Her parents also picked her up from my house once because my brother had friends over as well. We were 17 at the time and my parents were home. Boys and girls should obviously not be in the same house. That's how pregnancies happen. When I was a teenager, I knew a guy, as a friend of a friend, who, despite being a teenager, had parents so protective of him that he was only allowed to go to parties if they could come with him. Maybe they were raging alcoholics. Can't have Facebook because of internet predators. He's 18. Now that you are 16 years old, I think you are responsible enough to have a glass of water in your room. My friend was so excited when her parents told her that. My son has just been allowed to do the same. He is 2. 1/2. 17-year-old homeschooled male. Parental controls. Set so restricted he could only go on Nickelodeon Disney Channel websites. On the computer. Only allowed to read certain books. Christian. No radio. Only Christian contemporary CDs. They had some kind of chip in the TV so he could only watch G-rated stuff. So yeah, even some shows on Nickelodeon were too mature. He could not say wow this sucks without getting grounded. BC it was erotic. He was not allowed to make friends on his own. His parents set them up via play dates through the church. His parents were so out of touch with reality that they would buy him extremely age inappropriate stuff as presents and expect it to be developmentally appropriate. VeggieTales, Disney Junior, Jake and the Neverland Pirates toys themed gifts, etc. For a late teenage boy, I feel bad for him. He wasn't a bad kid and never had any conduct behavior issues prior to this. The parents were just terrified of anything secular and worldly. He was a senior in high school, be home by 5 p.m. on weekdays, 5:30 weekends. He can drive a car if he asks, but every time he uses it, he must wash it inside and out. His father would take a picture of the odometer before the son took the car anywhere and would get an estimation of the distance, and upon the son's return he would check the odometer. They locked the son in his room at night and read his texts every evening. For his cell phone voicemail, it was just his father's voice saying this is S phone. If you are a boy, leave a message. If you are a girl, hang up and never call back. The second he graduated high school he fled and joined the Marines. Now he's successful and hasn't spoken to them in 8 years. When I was younger, I played baseball with a boy who was never allowed to watch anything besides ESPN. He didn't know who SpongeBob was. Didn't exactly follow the rules, but if my mum was to have her way, I wouldn't be allowed to talk to girls until I was a rich 25-year-old doctor with a big house, at which point I'll automatically have a nice Korean wife. She would also have moved in with me at that point. Don't really remember much pre-high school, but had tutoring for every subject since year 3 or 4. I would have to do a homework set of year 12 math work when I was in year 7 when I got home. Dinner at 6 p.m. No exceptions. Bedtime was 8:30 p.m. until I just flat out refused for 2 years, at which point she finally gave up insisting. Had to sleep with the electric blanket on, which I just switched off when she was sleeping. Does not go well with Australian summers. My insomnia was blamed on me being a disrespectful son. Didn't play any computer console games until year 7. Didn't even really know of the concept of computer games when I was handed a copy of Counter-Strike 1.6 by my new high school friends. Was not allowed to play at all. Well, until she fell asleep and I had free reign. Was so dedicated for this outlet that I had to play at lowest settings at 15 FPS, using the trackpad of my laptop to aim. Needless to say, I sucked. I wasn't allowed out of the house, except to go to school and tutoring, bar maybe 1 or 2 movies. This went on until I became an adult and moved in with my dad. Also no allowance money, if that counts for anything. So I couldn't actually buy anything until I was 18. Shy of maybe some cheap snack I could buy with the coins I found on the street and around the house when she wasn't looking. I knew a family which ate dinner in alphabetical order by course. So, asparagus then chicken then rice. They weren't allowed to drink anything blue because it was unnatural. I knew a friend of a friend that was allowed no screens, TV, computer, etc. Period. Someone close to me was never allowed at sleepovers, ever. First night that was spent out of the house was mandatory college orientation. I was not allowed to talk to strangers. Not ridiculous, huh? Until you think of how many strangers speak to you in harmless ways every day. And I was not supposed to respond in any way. So basically ignore people being nice to me. Prayer. All the freaking time. Before and after meals. Before bed. Before school. After every single tiny infraction. Yeah, my mother was an ordained minister. That sucked. She was convinced that everyone that didn't live with us or go to church with us was pure evil. My dad had a ridiculous one. No curry allowed in the house. Ever. Not a takeaway or anything. And no way were we allowed to cook a curry in the house. It was made very clear to us as children and adults that there would be severe consequences if we broke the rule. He wasn't allergic or anything. Just didn't like curry. My parents were fundamental Christians. They made my sister and me say beep every time there was a curse word on TV or in real life. It took me at least 6 months to break that habit after I left for college. Nothing more embarrassing than watching a movies with friends or a date and saying beep out of habit. I still do it once in a blue moon. I'm almost 30. A guy I knew was not allowed to watch Power Rangers growing up. The reason his parents gave him, if their powers weren't from God, where did they get them from? I crap you not. Not ridiculously strict, but sad. My computer science classmate, after a series of interviews, got an offer to do a paid internship at Google in Silicon Valley, $60K a year and free flight and housing and the potential to work there full time upon graduation. But her parents wouldn't let her accept it because they didn't like the idea of her living on her own. So she turned it down and ended up working locally at a small company. You're not allowed out after dark. This was enforced all through high school, even by grade 12. This time of year it's dark by 5-6 p.m. And this included after school activities, a 6 p.m. movie with friends, and prom. My friend has to stick to a diet of applesauce and water when his mom is not home. His mom is afraid he will choke. He is 18 next month. My in-laws didn't let their kids watch the Olympics because some of the uniforms were too skimpy. My friends made fun of me because my mom wouldn't let me wash my hands at the sink because the soap would streak it. She is a cleaning fanatic. I grew up thinking it was normal to wash my hands in the bathtub until late middle school. An old best friend of mine. We met each other in grade 1 and quickly became friends. Her mother had always been a smother mother, but the kind of rules that were set just kept on getting progressively more and more intense. She was never allowed to indulge in cake at birthday parties, dessert after dinner at a friend's house, or even candy at Halloween. I swear her mother had her brainwashed to believe that everything that brought her an ounce of joy was evil. She would never be allowed to come hang out with us after school, well into high school, and anything that took place after 4 p.m. had to be planned weeks in advance. Her mother would make her study and practice her drawings. To be fair, she is a talented as frick artist, well into the evening, at least midnight. As far our trips to the beach or to the city, no freaking way. No pop culture, no cartoons, no real world experience. I can say with confidence that her mother stunted her social personal skills by at least half a dozen years. She has immense difficulty meeting new people, and social cues to her are practically non-existent. The kicker was a few years ago when her mother followed her to university. Yup, she moved a few provinces over and her mother and her shared a 1-bedroom apartment. Her mother is freaking married. She left her husband to go be a smother mother to her 19-year-old daughter at university. I don't know about you guys, but I find this pretty outrageous. No movies other than PG-13. She was 17. Not me but a friend. No posters in their rooms. No listening to music other than religious crap. We were really into Green Day at the time, so that was rough. And the mom picked out all of her outfits every day. We were 12. That's why you run away and start the greatest rock band the world has ever seen. Not sure if this was the parents' doing, or she was just in her head too much, but my sister knew a girl who went to confession when she caught herself going over the speed limit. My cousin and his bearded wife have 2 girls, one around 6 or 7 and the other around 4. His wife does not allow the children to watch any movies where the children have revolted against their parents. They are not allowed to watch Finding Nemo because Nemo says I hate you to his dad. They are not allowed to eat candy because mama likes them skinny. When they visit his parents, they have to be in the absolute dark when going to bed, around 7 p.m. There is tin foil on the windows to block the light coming in. There always has to be a fan on and no one else in the house is allowed to make any noise. We all have to go to bed at 7 o'clock just so we don't wake them up. They are being homeschooled by this woman with no extracurricular activities. When I was working retail, a mother was looking for a gift for her son and asked me what was popular with the boys. I told her Angry Birds. She said she didn't let him play that because something angry could have a bad influence on him. My own parents. We lived about 5 miles from a lake. It was supposed to be a treat to go swimming there. Could only go into 2 ankle deep though. You can drown in a teaspoon of water. When I was 12, I went camping with friends at a lake with a dam. Everyone was jumping and it was way over our heads. After 2 days of them bugging me to get in, I drown. Someone in the crowd saved me. Next weekend my mother takes, traumatized, me to her pool, tells me to get in and don't get out until I can swim across the pool. Worst way to get permission to swim, by drowning. My cousins are 15 and 17, soon to be 18. Their parents will not let them watch PG-13 movies and limit their television by not having cable and making their kids have to get parental consent before they can watch a show on Netflix, rent a show from the library. The 17-year-old was only just allowed to get his license, and only so he can drive himself to work and school. He's not allowed to go anywhere else. Both of them have to be in bed by 8:30 p.m. The daughter is not allowed to shop for clothes without her mom to make sure it's appropriate. Oh, did I mention they still have a babysitter? Their parents have been horribly strict their whole lives. If they got toys for their birthdays, Christmas, they would all be donated. Books were the only acceptable gift. Ugh. I could go on and on about their ridiculous rules. A friend of mine's parents forced the whole family to pray the rosary every time they were in the car together, no matter how short or long the ride. Once his parents let him get his license, he felt pretty dang liberated, at 22. My cousin was not allowed to watch or read Harry Potter. My uncle and his wife are mega Catholics. She was also not allowed to walk on the road until 14, which meant going to a friend's house involved getting a drive, even 3 doors down. My uncle's wife also told my other aunt, me, other cousin, sister-in-law, stepsister, mother, and co-worker that we were all going to heck for being gay. There's a whole lot of queer in my family. I told her at least the bus ride there would be fun. She had to roll a dice to go out with friends. If it was odd she could go, if even she had to stay in with the family that many days, supposed to make her value her family time and stop her being out so much, all I ever saw it do was reduce her to a sobbing mess. I will forever regret not telling the sea father he was indeed a sea that day. You have been visited by the strong skeleton. He wants you to like this video and have a good week. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.